All right, guys, welcome back to Zando Football. Definitely appreciate the support. In this video, we're going to get into a defensive coverage that I use in the red zone called Red 5, and I use the route commit feature in the coverage. All right, so first and foremost, what you see on the screen is cover 5. This isn't what I'm going to run, but the understanding of the coverage here will make sense in the coverage with Red 5. So in cover 5, or better known as two-man in Madden, okay, just pay attention to these defenders here. All right. Obviously, when you're playing on defense, you always want to play to your help. Okay. So as this defender, knowing that I have over the top deep half help by the safety. Okay. So this guy is your help. Okay. But he's not your only help. You also have the sideline. And that is the key component of the coverage that I will speak about. All right. So with that said, having over the top help and due to the split of the wide receiver, the sideline is your help as well. You know, it makes the most amount of sense to play inside leverage trail technique to constrain the most amount of space against this receiver. All right. Now with the interior defender, it's a little bit not as cut and dry. You still have over the top help. Okay, but due to the reduced split of the receiver, there's more space for him to run to the outside. But with that said, you know, if you draw a line down the center of this receiver, there's obviously way more space to the inside as opposed to the outside. So if you're ever going to get beat while in two-man, you would rather get beat to the outside with this split as opposed to the inside. Okay, it's always criminal to get beat inside while playing two-man. All right, so with that said, I want to go ahead and play this, and then we'll get right into Red 5. So I think my opponent ran like a switch release. Okay, and I think his mistake here is running the formation into the boundary with this. Okay, so he doesn't have a lot of space to fit this ball in there. We'll go ahead and play it. Okay, if you're wondering why me as a safety, I'm playing further inside here, it's because I'm playing pretty much cover 5 shield. Okay, so real quickly, okay, when you play two-man, okay, these guys are going to play inside leverage underneath trail, okay? But when you get splits like this, with this guy aligned outside, he's not going to play underneath inside trail. He plays outside leverage, okay? And that's important to know. I'm going to get into coverages or videos regarding this when it comes to cover 5. So, you know, with him playing like outside leverage, it makes no sense for you as the safety to play deep half if he's going to play that way, right? So to optimize the coverage against a formation like this, when you call cover 5, you're better suited to play in the middle, okay? And this is where I get cover 5 shield because this is the strong side. This is the weak side, right? So I made a video briefly going over cover 5 wall where the safeties are buzzing towards the weak side, or cover 5 shield, we're buzzing towards the strong side, right? So yeah, you're playing with outside leverage, but if he comes inside, okay, he's outside leverage, well, it makes more sense to constrain more space as a safety to play deep middle, right? You're always trying to play to your help. So that's why it's important to know how your defenders will play their particular assignment against different formations. All right, so I went on a tangent there. I really didn't want to go there. Okay, so he's open on that switch release. They got the, you know, the kind of rub action that they want. But the problem is running that into the boundary. There's just not a lot of, look, we have the deep half safety over the top. He's got to fit the ball. It's got to be a perfect ball here. Daniels. Okay, and pay attention to our corner. He's doing a great job playing inside leverage, taking away the inside. That's what you want to do in two-man, but he does not want to get beat to the inside. So he's playing that perfectly, deep half over the top help, and the ball does not, again, it's not a perfect ball. It's real narrow space that he had to fit that in there, but let's get into the cover. As you see here, this is cover 5, but now we are in the red zone, and this is where things change here. Okay, so You guys know I always try to layer my stuff here, so that's why I went over cover five first, because the key component of cover five there is we have two umbrella defenders capping the defense. Okay. And now that we are in the red zone, the space for the offense is now compressed by the simple fact that they have 30 yards worth of field down the field to attack as opposed to 60, 70, or 80. Okay. So, with that said, as the defense, remember, you're always playing to your help. Okay. As the underneath defenders, we can still play underneath and aggressive, but we really don't need these two umbrella cap defenders. Why? Because the back line can be used as our cap defender. All right. So, your 12th man on defense is the sideline. Okay. But that stretches to the back line as well when you get in the red zone. And this is where we can use the back line as the cap defender, so to speak. So with that said, we don't need you guys in deep half. And this is where we're going to get into red five. Okay, so what I do in red five, I call cover five. All right, so the defense will come out with these guys in deep half, but we don't need them as cap defenders. And what I do is I turn these guys into hook curl. Okay, because we're trying to constrain the most amount of space as possible. We're going to use the back line as the umbrella of the coverage or the cap defenders. All right. And with us playing inside hook curl, defending more inside the numbers, now we play route commit to the outside with our underneath defenders. All right. And I keep an imaginary line in your head. Okay. So when you put them in hook curl, he really plays kind of in between the numbers and the hash. Well, actually, because we're on the boundary, he's going to play more like this. He's going to play more like this. Okay. So if you are outside of this line, then I don't play with outside leverage. Okay. And this is where I will turn the outside guy into an inside leverage. All right. So really quickly, you call cover five, and it depends on the formation. I'm going to show you a lot of clips here to show you the different adjustments. All right. Call cover five, turn these guys into hook curls, your safeties. All right. You route commit to the outside. All right. So now these guys are going to play hard outside leverage. Okay. And we want to funnel these guys into our help to the inside of the field. And if you find yourself outside of the divider line for this coverage, then you turn this guy into inside leverage. Okay. Where he plays inside. All right. And that is the coverage. Let's get into some clips.
Receiver in motion.
Okay, so this will be a good example. Watch this. So I put route commit to the outside. So if you don't know route commit or shade, okay, you can shade left, you can shade right, shade left or right, or you can route commit to the outside or route commit to the inside. What's the difference? Well, when you shade, for example, if this guy were to play shade inside, okay, well then he's going to shade inside and play inside routes a little bit more aggressively. But when you route commit to the inside, he almost sells out with more aggression to the inside. All right, for a lack of better words. So it's more of like a, you shade inside, or you can route commit inside where you just kind of commit to the inside. Okay. Now the problem with route committing to a particular direction is if they run a route to the opposite direction, they're going to be able to obtain a lot more space with you selling out in the opposite direction. But again, this is where we are using the safeties and the boundary, not the boundary, but the back line as our help, right? This is our cap defender. So we're not necessarily worried about getting burned over the top. The space is compressed in itself when we're in the red zone. And now we have help to the inside. So if we're going to commit to outside breaking routes and you run routes to the inside, you're running to where our help is. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. I don't remember what happened here, but I want you to just pay attention to the outside here. Watch how when he motioned him outside of that divider line, this is where I turned him into inside leverage. I should do that right there, right? So I turned him into inside shade. And now just watch him because I'm going to replay this.
Shotgun snap.
Look at the amount of space this guy has to operate with, right? Okay, so we're playing to our help with that inside shade because he's outside of our imaginary divider. You know, our help aren't the interior safeties. Our help is the sideline and the back line. Okay, and with that combination of back line, sideline, and us to the inside, he's pretty much in a box. You can't throw anything here. And the one route that an offense would use to attack this type of coverage here is the fade, back shoulder fade. Okay, but I have a question though. In the last 10 years that you've played Madden, out of the 2,000 games that you played, how many times has someone thrown a back shoulder fade in the red zone on the outside? Okay. If you can count on your hand maybe 3 or 4 times, then that's something that you don't have to worry about, right? So with this combination of backline, sideline, inside shade, this guy is just out of the picture. All right, so now we'll just run the play. Okay, so we're going to play outside leverage, outside leverage, outside leverage. This is our safety hinging inside. He didn't like it at first. He's going to throw it late where our underneath defender is going to cut that off and get an interception. So you see how the safety's playing inside here, right? So he can't just rip it in there. And he's running out of the pocket. He throws it late because he sees the flash of his receiver. And our corner is underneath for that. All right, so let's get into some more plays. I'll stop running my mouth. I think I have like 7 minutes worth of clips. Okay, so right away, call cover 5. Hook curl. Hook curl, hook curl. Okay, I should turn this guy into inside leverage, and then obviously we're route commit. So the order that I do it in is when I call cover 5, as soon as we come out, I route commit to the outside immediately. So it turns all of these guys playing outside leverage. All right, then I hook curl my safeties, and then I look for whoever's outside of the imaginary divider line, and I turn them into inside leverage, right? And usually I user one of the safeties. Okay, I will make videos with part 2 and part 3 of Red 5 of different adjustments you can make with width and depth and strong point and all that. But this is really just kind of like an introduction to a red zone coverage, because I don't think I've ever went over red zone coverages in Madden, and this is probably the most important part of your defense when playing the game.
Trying to hold on as long as he can. The pressure just gets to him a little too fast, and the ball falls incomplete.
Okay, look how he plays kind of off, and then now he's buzzing underneath, inside leverage trail. So he's theoretically beat on a deep go ball, right? But again, this is our cap umbrella defender. We don't have to worry about a plethora of different routes, especially the 9 route. So with that said, we can play in this fashion without having a safety over the top, because again, we have a cap defender, which is the back line. All right. He's playing really well inside leverage. So again, now look at the interior. Notice how they're all playing outside leverage, funneling to our safeties here. So I'll go ahead and just run some clips here.
The ball falls incomplete.
Okay, he ran a very poor route concept. I think he ran like 4 verts, and he had his outside guy run a dig pattern.
The ball falls incomplete.
Look at how he's boxing him in pretty good. Poor user play here, because once he went past this line, I should not have even thought about running up to play that. I should have stayed in the window here looking to help out on this guy coming inside, right? So this should have been a pick here.
And this is going to be incomplete. That is great work there.
But we get an incompletion.
One that may help save points on the board when this drive is over.
Okay, now here we're going to get into an instance where, okay, again, right away, cover 5, turn these guys both into hook curls, route commit to the outside. This guy's outside the divider, so I turn him into inside shade, and I should turn him into inside shade. But the problem is, let's imagine I put him in hook curl. The problem is this defender here. Okay, it doesn't matter if I put him route commit to the outside. He's already out leveraged to the outside by this tight end, right? So a variation that I will do in a lot of cases is I will man the safety on the tight end because he's outside leverage of the tight end. So if he runs out, he can play aggressively outside with the route commit. And I'll turn this guy into a hook curl, and then we have our two interior defenders. Okay, or you can keep this logic like this, and then that will allow this guy to play aggressively to the outside on an outbreaking route. And then again, we just play hard inside hook curl. Now, in that instance, if you were to do that and this guy were to run an inside breaking route, okay, well, now you can cut that off and then switch stick to the safety who's going to be running with that. And then once you click on him, then you play hook curl, right? So you can get very creative with this. Let's see what happened. I don't remember what happened. Okay, so I decided to do exactly what I said the first time. Okay, inside leverage, inside leverage.
Now on 3rd and long, they'll look to throw. That is caught at the center. They'll look to throw.
You would like for the backside safety to kind of drive on that, but it is what it is. So now, you know, I'll let some of this run.
So just sit back.
Okay, so here you see what I did. Okay, hook curl, okay. But we don't like, you know, we're playing outside leverage. You want him to play inside leverage, all right? We want to play outside leverage of this guy, but because I'm in the box, I really can't, right? So our best player to do that leverage-wise is the safety, okay? So that's what we did. You know, we want outside leverage. Okay, that is the biggest spider I've ever seen in my life. Dead. Play inside leverage, and then now we have our interior help. All right.
Back, dare you to throw it on every down.
So I'm inside. Love that inside. Okay, this is bad over here. I wonder if I forgot to change that over there.
Yeah, you get your quarterback hit a lot.
Okay, but he really has nowhere to go. And this is where we get into a problem when you call cover 5, and that's who is defending the quarterback. But we do get a big hit. We get a turnover. And, you know, again, this is why it's important to kind of look at issues in a particular coverage, because, again, we're going to get back into this. Outside leverage, outside. No, we want really inside leverage. So I think I missed this. But outside, okay. But the problem is the tight end, right? If I'm on the tight end, I can't funnel him to interior help. So why not have the safety play with outside leverage on the tight end, and then I play interior as the interior help with the safety. All right, now we do have an issue here. These are formations that can give us problems, because now this guy's tagged with the back. And again, this is where you can come up with adjustments again against different formations. And I think I'm going to get into that later. But what he's going to do is going to run that RPO flat. This is 4th and goal. This is a pivotal play in the drive. He's going to run that RPO flat where you get this action here, and then this guy just goes right to the flat, and guys just throw that every time. But again, outside leverage, right? And watch what happens here. Route commit to the outside, and we have that logic in the game. So now he's going to play even more aggressively to the outside because he knows he has inside help here. Look how we get a stop on a pivotal point of the drive there. Okay, so we'll just start running some of these clips. You can see how I played it.
Has it in close.
And maybe I'll stop it at some point in some of these clips.
It's 2nd and 8. From the gun, Mayfield. Catch is made in close.
Okay, you see what I'm doing here? Okay. Inside leverage. You can almost see this is fringe here. That's fringe. think you can almost put this guy with inside leverage, and then we just outside route commit with this guy. Okay, but I decided to outside leverage that guy. You're on your own here. And I moved this safety up because I want him to take away we want to funnel this guy to the inside. All right, so that's what we're doing here.
Allen to throw again. That one late. Only his guy can catch it, but I think he hears those footsteps coming from that nearest defender, and he's not able to secure the catch through contact. Throw once more. Here's Allen. Finishes through it. The pass is incomplete. They got there.
So this may have been before those plays where I didn't move this guy down. Maybe I saw something here where from this point forward, I wanted to really get him to the outside, as you see there. So he's able to meet him at the catch point, make a play on the ball. Okay, so then that's when I started, I would assume, moving the safety into a more advantageous position of playing him outside leverage. Now, an issue with this coverage is when you get into bunch. Okay, because obviously with bunch, you get a lot of pick and rub stuff. So, there's obviously adjustments you can make to deal with this. I'll come up with other videos for this. Okay, but again, just because you play a particular coverage doesn't mean that you don't make adjustments in the coverage when you run into formations that give it problems. Okay, so I've went over a lot of different playbooks, and I've noticed that, for example, I looked at a playbook with a team where they call cover 5, and it shows how they play against different coverages. Okay, here he's going to run an RPO type or like a peak type play where, you got the zone, and then if you like the slant, you can throw it, but that plays right into the hands of the coverage. Because I'm playing inside, this guy's playing outside leverage. We kind of close that off there. I don't think he was even able to get the throw. All right, so it kind of baits him into thinking this is open if we don't overcommit on the run. And I think right there he wanted to throw it, and I was lurking in the weeds there.
And that is incomplete. Just a couple plays ago, Mike, it felt like a touchdown.
Here's third and goal now.
But back to what I was saying, there was a playbook where, there was cover 5. Okay. And it went over, okay, this is how it plays against, this spread set. This is how we line up and play against this set. This is how we play against this set, etc. But when it got down to like a tight set, there was one playbook where they don't even play cover 5. They automatically check out of cover 5 against a set like that, right? So if you're having issues playing cover 5 against a particular formation like that, you may think, well, what do I do with this cover? Well, sometimes it's best just to check out. That's what teams may do if they know a particular formation can give it problems. Okay. Also, the game doesn't get into checks that happen in real life a lot of times. So like in 2-man, okay, what I've noticed, I've looked at some playbooks where, let's say we're playing 2-man against this set, okay? What a team will do is, okay, we're playing 2-man over here, but if we get a reduced split by the receiver on the single receiver side, we're not going to play traditional 2-man in deep half safety, okay? They check on the backside into something like cut a lot of times, where, I've seen something where the corner will play outside leverage pre-snap, and at the snap of the ball, if the guy goes out, well, okay, he takes him. But if the guy goes inside, well, then the safety cuts that route off because he'll be in better position inside of that. And then now the corner will buzz out and play deep half, right? It's like an auto adjustment check against a particular split or look. Okay, so I think that's important if you're playing certain coverages. If you're a cover 2 guy, a cover 3 guy, and you get into different problems against different formations, maybe it's because the game doesn't have a check that an ordinary team may have against that particular set, and you got to know what type of check you need to get into and make your adjustments pre-snap when you get those particular formations. All right. So with that said, I don't remember what happened here.
Back to throw.
He missed that underneath throw.
Looking end zone.
Able to see that was a inaccurate throw. Okay, so yeah, you got the ball to the receiver, but a lot of times ball placement is so important. I think they should have ratings for ball placement with quarterbacks. Okay, because a lot of times putting the ball, a foot away from a particular spot can be the difference between a touchdown, an interception, an incompletion, right? So if the ball would have been over here, this would have been a completion, but because it was kind of like behind him, all right, yes, he was able to get his hands on the ball, but our defender is able to attack the ball at the catch point. All right, so if it was more over here, he could have caught it in stride and been a touchdown. But now he's got to, make that awkward turn for the ball, and they can be aggressive at the catch point there. I think that was one thing that Aaron Rodgers in his prime was like elite at, and it was ball placement, where, receiver breaks open, wide open, and, 30 out of the 32 quarterbacks in the league could have hit the pass. But Aaron Rodgers puts the ball in a spot to where he doesn't have to break stride at all, right? It's just like right on the dime, right on the money, right in stride, right in front of him. So when he catches the ball, he's still running full speed, and he's able to get so many yards after the catch with that. I think ball placement is an underrated facet of a lot of quarterbacks' game.
Down on his first try. The rest of his guys are all
So that's a rant that came out of nowhere based upon that one play. But it is what it is. Okay, that's where I should have got an interception. That's just poor user play. So, I still show stuff like that because I think if you guys run this coverage in a spot like that, you would get an interception where, my user skills are kind of terrible and I kind of rely on concepts and stuff like that. There's an example where the corner undercut the route because, again, they're playing underneath hip trail, right? So they're playing aggressively underneath because the back line is their help, or they know they have cap defenders in two-man. Okay, so, the game may not know that we changed it to where the side, we're using this as the cat defenders, so they still play with underneath hip trail, but we're okay with that because, again, the back line is really our safeties, and we're able to use the safeties elsewhere to constrain more space. All right. See, look how he's under the route. Okay, so he's under, you can't throw that. And here we get into yet another issue, or the same issue as before, is who has the quarterback, right? So this is where you may want to come up with stuff where you quarterback contain. So there I press the, if you guys don't know, some may not know this, if the quarterback breaks contain, you can press R3. And what that does is it will tell your defense, okay, hey, go get the quarterback, the nearest defender. So that's what I did here, and I probably shouldn't have done it. I don't think I could have stopped this touchdown no matter what. Okay, if I would have kept him on the receiver, he would have been able to get into the end zone no matter what. Right. So I pressed R3, and you see how he leaks off, and now he's going for the quarterback. Now he can throw the ball. This is the problem with quarterbacks breaking contain.
That's going to be caught. So add a couple more points, and they for 3rd and 4.
32.
So obviously I'm playing games here.
Out of the gun, Gabriel. That's out.
Nothing special there.
And he's going to get this close to a first down, but he's out of bounds a yard short. 2nd down play.
Black 40.
Looks like I'm doing a pirate stunt. to the field. Okay, so this is where we get into the run fit stuff. All right, so that pirate stunt is pretty amazing in a number of different ways. But, you know, I don't want to go off the deep end there. I think I'll make another video on the pirate stunt when it comes to run fits. But it can really change your game in a lot of ways when you're playing like a simple coverage in the back end, like cover 2 or cover 3. So I would keep those stunts in mind against different sets and doing it again.
He'll run. And he'll plow forward for a gain of 4 yards.
So I think that will be it, guys. You know, again, this is a red zone coverage. It is pretty much designed to use the back line as your help, while in man coverage, it kind of compress more space underneath with your 2 safeties, and using, again, the sideline and the back line as the 13th defender in the defense. All right, so I think I will leave it at that. Definitely incorporate this in your scheme, and I hope you keep coming back for more, man. Peace.